Do you think it's possible to survive a plane crash after both of the plane engines shut down? That's exactly what we'll talk about in this video, so make sure you watch it to the end. On January 15th, 2009, at LaGuardia Airport in New York, a regular Thursday afternoon flight heading to Charlotte, North Carolina, with 155 people on board. And the plane pilot was a man named Chesley Sullenberger, a 57-year-old with over decades of experience, so for him, this flight was just a daily routine. Then, around 3 p.m., the plane took off, and everything seemed normal and smooth, but less than 2 minutes, at around 2,800 feet in the air, something happened. The plane hit a flock of Canadian geese, and the birds got sucked into both engines, so within seconds, both engines shut down completely, and the cockpit literally went silent, with no roar or power, just the sound of air rushing past the plane. Sully looked at his co-pilot Jeff Skiles, and they both knew that they lost their engines. It means that every decision they would make in the next 90 seconds could end the life of 155 people behind them. Most pilots in that situation would panic. But surprisingly, the pilot Sully stayed calm, which made a lot of people couldn't understand why. Turns out, Sully had over 40 years of flying experience, and he had been trained for emergencies his entire career. So while people around him froze, his brain switched into survival mode. After they reported what happened, the air traffic control offered him a runway back at LaGuardia Airport. But Sully already started doing the math in his head, and he realized that the plane was gliding at 150 miles per hour, and it was losing altitude fast, and the nearest runway was miles away. So based on the glide path, the wind, the speed, and the distance, he knew they weren't going to make it to the runway, and all the passengers' lives would be over. So at that moment, he told the air traffic control that he was heading to the Hudson River, and the controller thought he heard it wrong, because nobody lands a commercial plane on a river. But Sully wasn't asking for permission. He was telling them what he was about to do. Inside the cabin, passengers heard the flight attendants yelling, "Brace for impact! Brace for impact!" and people started panicking. When they looked out the windows and saw buildings getting closer, they realized they were way too low and way too fast. At 3:31 p.m., boom! Sully guided the plane down onto the Hudson River, and the impact was so hard to the point they thought all the passengers lost their lives. The water literally spread everywhere, and the plane skidded across the surface before finally slowing down. But surprisingly, it didn't break apart or sink immediately. Then, passengers started coming out of the plane, evacuating onto the wings and into emergency rafts. Within minutes, ferries and boats started rushing over to pull people out of the freezing water. By some miracle, all 155 people survived, and not a single person died. But still, even though everyone was safe, the story wasn't over, because the National Transportation Safety Board started investigating, and they weren't celebrating Sully as a hero. Instead, they were questioning if he made the right decision. So they ran a bunch of simulations, and the computer said the plane could have made it back to LaGuardia or to another nearby airport. So investigators started suggesting that Sully made the wrong decision, and that landing in the river was unnecessary and too risky. They even played the cockpit audio over and over and analyzed every second of the flight, asking why he didn't try for the runway. At that moment, and for the first time, Sully felt pressure in a different way, because now people were doubting him, and the simulations showed 15 out of 15 successful returns to the airport with perfect landings and no crashes every single time. So the question became, did Sully panic and make the wrong choice? But wait, in the simulations, the pilots knew the engines were going to fail, and they reacted immediately, with no hesitation and no fear. But in real life, Sully had to process what happened, communicate with his co-pilot, assess the situation, and make a decision while the plane was falling. Just imagine how much time it would take you to process all of that. So what Sully did, he told them to just add 35 seconds to the simulations, to include the human reaction time, the shock, and also the fear. And when they did, every single simulation crashed, not into the river, but into the buildings. And at that moment, they saw how much the outcome has changed by only adding a couple seconds. Then, the investigators went quiet, because they realized Sully was right. If he had tried for the runway and missed it, the plane would have crashed into New York City, and everyone would have died. So at the end, they admitted that his decision saved 155 people, and without him, no one would survive that day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Just don't forget to like it, and make sure you hit the subscribe button to watch more videos like this.